I don't know what happened. I don't remember the next few minutes, but I got in the car and I drove.
Hi friends, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. I just saw that clip that you saw in the very beginning of this video where Janelle is crying and we know what she's talking about. And this is going to be on the most newest episode that's coming up on Sunday on May 4th. And there's very few times in my job that I find joy in having to cover tragedy. I actually hate it. I don't like it. And it's an unfortunate aspect of the work I do because a lot of the work I do involves challenging stories. But this story in general really affected me personally. It affected you, the audience. It affected the people that have been following the family. And there was a lot of questions for so many of us when this happened about how it was going to be handled by TLC. And because TLC doesn't have the best track record for being ethical or kind or not exploiting situations or sanitizing situations that really shouldn't be sanitized and helping people that are really bad hurt people like Jim Bob Duggar using a show to control his family, Cody Brown using a show to control his family, and all these other Kate Gosselin and Toby Willis. It's just the list goes on and on. All of the people on 90 Day Fiance that have been arrested, and yet there's like no accountability in the TLC world. And we know that on Sunday now that they're going to cover the aftermath or the tragedy of Garrison Brown's passing. And other shows have had to deal with similar types of passings, but I don't know that any other show has dealt with this kind of passing. Whitney, who is on My Big Fat Fabulous Life, her mom died and her mom's passing was a part of it, but her mom had been sick. Grandpa Duggar and Grandma Duggar's passings and Grandma Duggar's funeral was shown on the show, which I thought was so wild. But again, these were elderly people that either had been ill or been dealing with illnesses and then finally passed away. Very rarely do we see on a show that someone that's very young, just starting out their adult life, and then pass away in such a tragic way. And then when we have the police reports, which show what his final text message is, which was to people he worked with, production people, along with his dad and Christine and siblings and, all of and his mom, I want to hate you for the good times, but I can't. I miss those days. And, you know, his mom checking in on him and he says he's not doing okay. And we know that this happened in March and leading up to this, Cody that season on Sister Wives publicly was bullying Garrison and his sons. He referred to his children as jerks. He said that he didn't want to talk to them anymore. Cody on the tell all said that he wanted to punch the people in the mouth in their family that spoke ill of Robin. And he was getting very hostile about it, acting like he needed to defend his wife against his children, making it seem like his children were dangerous for his wife and her kids, alienating his wife and kids away from everyone else. And so when Cody is on a episode this week pretending like he was alienated from the family by his wives, it's really just it makes me feel sick. It makes me feel sick that Cody still plays the victim, knowing that this was a byproduct of everything that happened. And these types of passings are so complicated and there's so many different factors that play into it, but someone that struggles with ideation is struggling with a mental illness. And often they feel like they would be helping people if they left. Like they feel like there's such a burden to everyone around them that leaving would be better for them and better for everyone because they feel like they've caused all these problems. They can't control the ideation and they can't stop it themselves unless they seek help, right? And then he was also dealing with substance abuse, and he had an extremely high level of alcohol in him. And the coroner ruled that it was alcohol poisoning along with the self inflicted aspect. And those two factors together with a gun made it for a very tragic ending. And had he been sober, maybe that would not have happened. But there's always been these things that have been in the family that have been talked about, and these arguments that have been going on, and they've really danced around the severity of what the kids have been going through. And so this season has been very strange for me because last season it was so obvious that the kids were struggling and angry and frustrated and wanted to have a voice. And then if you watch this season after the death happened, it was almost like TLC is trying to backtrack, right? They're trying to act like what happened before with what Cody said, where Cody said that he was saying all these terrible things and he didn't mean it. And he said those things to the camera, like he's trying to like absolve himself of what's coming next in the show, you know?
Yeah. I got alienated from my children when the divorces happened. I have an assumption that the exes just weren't protecting the privacy of the breakup at all. They're just like, your dad's like this, your dad's like this, your dad's like this. And so I had all this relationship struggle with all of mine. So I'm trying to establish this relationship where they're no longer having me represented to them by my ex-wives.
And because we're going to be watching it now, and it happened right after everything happened in season 18 when he was literally berating his children, calling Garrison a jerk and saying he never wanted to talk to him ever again. It's going to be lost in translation, right? It's going to be lost that we'll have forgotten that that ever happened, that that ever aired. And so they're going to be talking about it this week. It's going to be a part of the show. And because there are 3 more episodes before the tell all, I'm assuming all 3 of them are going to be dealing with his death. And I think it's going to be really complicated because how do you cover something like this transparently when you have a reality show and a bottom line? How do you bring in the fact that a lot of the conflicts in this family have to do with the show, have to do with what he publicly says about them, the abusive rhetoric he spews to tabloids and to the tell all hosts and to the producers without any guilty conscience? He doesn't care, no consequences. How do you really cover it in an authentic way that exposes the trauma these kids are enduring, not only because they've been forced to live their lives on reality television without any privacy, and then their darkest moments become fights between the parents, and then now their deaths are being used by a network as a storyline for exploiting, right? And it's coming up this week. So I just want to give some insight about what reality TV can do and how it exploits deaths that include self harm. There's a lot of factors that can play, but pressure from the fame and public scrutiny, having a negative portrayal on a show, and social media backlash can significantly impact contestants' mental health. It can lead to breakdowns, anxiety, depression, and tragic cases of suicide. We know that he was dealing with a lot of backlash from his dad, and mental health can be taxed by that. They have a habit of exploiting vulnerable people. They often don't offer support to the families that are going through this. So think of it this way. The camera crews are showing up every day. They know that Cody is saying these terrible things, and they're not offering resources to the family. They're not offering therapy. They're not suggesting therapy. They're not caring about what this is doing to their talent. All they're thinking about is the bottom line of making a good show without thinking about how this is impacting the people that they're filming. There's really concern because sensationalized coverage when it deals with suicide can contribute to what's called suicide contagion, and that can impact other vulnerable people that might want to take their own lives. If the show is focused on creating drama and conflict and leads to contestants being humiliated, shamed, and portrayed negatively, it can significantly impact mental health and well-being of cast. So Well, how they're handled and the stress that they're under can play a role because there's no guidelines in reality television and there's literally no regulations for this kind of TV. It's different than pushing an actor to play a part, right? You're forcing real people to kick up drama and create stories and be as dramatic as possible in order to create and sell a show. And in truth, most of our lives day to day are not very dramatic, right? I mean, if you were going to film my life, it would be so boring. In an hour, I'm going to go pick my son up from school. Tomorrow morning, I'll take him to school. That will be the day. You know what I mean? Like, that's not that exciting. There's no drama here. And so they have to create drama. They also have to continue to talk about the drama. They have to keep talking about the pain. They have to keep talking about the worst moments of their lives, rehashing it and not allowing anyone to move on. And now that this is going to be a part of the show, it feels like that's going to happen here, right? And how does the show move on? Like nothing's happening. How does Cody continue this arc of being this amazing father that he's been given thus far 22 episodes of this season to have? TLC gave him 22 episodes of a new arc of being a good dad, so involved, amazing, trying to show a softer side of him. 22 episodes of him, gushing over his children with Robin while ignoring that he even has kids. And in the most recent episode, talking about seeing Aspen and McKelty and the twins. And then he also mentioned he saw two boys from another mother. And that filming had to have been when he was in town and he went to a concert with them. And the two other boys were Hunter and Logan. It was not Garrison, and I don't think it was Gabriel that was there. I think Hunter and Logan were there. So he's like trying to prove to the world that he's this great dad, right? Are they going to show on the show that Cody didn't show up to the scene? Are they going to show that she's told police that he was estranged from his father and had a complicated relationship with him? That he had been struggling with mental illness and substance abuse, his friends saying that he was struggling with the shame, self-doubt, and friends of his posting about the stress and trauma he was dealing with from the show. Is that going to be a part of this? Because that could actually be an eye-opening experience for viewers, but it would probably alter that guilty pleasure people have of tuning in. You know what I mean? Like there's always this guilty pleasure, this voyeuristic moment in reality television where you feel like you're just watching something you shouldn't be seeing. And would it change the viewer's mind if what they knew about what was happening behind the scenes, would they watch if they knew? I only watch to debunk Cody, to talk about the harms of polygamy, to advocate for women and victims in these cults, and to not be a part of the media that propagates and is a propaganda machine for a harmful practice that is violence against women and children. At what point does the show actually look at it from that angle? Do you think they'll talk about how suicide is a huge problem in this culture with boys, with young men, and people that leave the culture? It's a huge problem. They have a greater risk than others due to the shunning, being kicked out of their families, the shame they feel because they've been told their whole life they have to do things a certain way, and then if they don't, they feel like they can't measure up. The isolation, losing all their entire communities, it's more than most can bear. And then lack of education about mental health and getting help and not using medication because the culture itself makes them scared of doctors, makes them scared of mental illness, makes them feel like the mental illness is their fault, is not supportive of people taking mental health medication, makes them feel like if they're just happier or do more, they can manage their mental illness. There's all these stigmas that are a part of it. And I doubt that's going to make the cut. But then I also feel sad that contractually these women have to film this. Do you think that they even wanted to film this? I mean, contractually, couldn't they have just stopped right there and been like, we're done? And for TLC to make this now the last 3 episodes after ignoring him all season, isn't that weird? He hasn't been named once and we haven't seen him once all season. And suddenly we've had 22 episodes with no Garrison and now he's going to die. It feels really bizarre. So we'll have to see how it plays out, but I wanted to give you the alert. So if you don't want to watch, you don't have to. I will watch it with a heavy heart, and my stomach is in knots even doing this video because I hate it. Garrison Brown's life was tragically cut short, and he was the victim of a polygamous cult and an abusive father. And if you are anyone that if you or anyone that you know is struggling with thoughts of self-harm or ideation, know that you're not alone and help is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's a national hotline, just dial 988 in the United States if you need help. And I would like to know what your thoughts are about it. Tell me in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye, guys.